Welcome back, viewers. We are watching Asian Vibes, and my guest today is David Evans, and we're talking about cruising to Asia. So, David, what kind of preparation or what kind of orientation would I need? I'm Asian, of course, but for a non-Asian to travel to Asia, what is the kind of orientation would you advise?
Well, I would start doing some research on the internet, Google a few things.
Culturally appropriate.
And find out, sort of narrow down some of your interests, and then it's time to talk to an expert about what sorts of things you could expect to find. And if you have a specific interest, either a port, a destination, or an activity, mention those things, and you can usually match the cruise to your interests. When I'm looking at a cruise, I generally think there's three things you want to evaluate: the itinerary,
Yes.
the ship, and the
And all that it
company
offers.
behind it, and of
Okay.
course the price.
Price, yeah.
And but the itinerary is number one, because you want to go to places that you're interested in, and it's important that you do a little research on your own and talk to friends, people who have cruised before, and then go see the expert and narrow the focus down. There's literally thousands of possibilities, and just to walk in and say, I'd like to go to Asia.
It's like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and what about things like cultures, language, food, and how do you adapt to those kind of
Well, you can be as
requirements?
adventurous or not adventurous as you like.
Okay.
Certainly while you're on the ship, most companies will offer in the daily menu a local cuisine.
Okay. Yeah.
If you still want the T-bone steak, you can get that.
You still have those options.
And there are all sorts of ranges in between. While you're ashore, it's totally up to you as to how authentic your meals and cuisines and activities become. There are some advisories in certain cities where you may not wish to purchase street food. It may be a bit surprising to you in the level of spice, the ingredient that was put
Ingredients,
in it, and the sanitary conditions.
Okay, yes.
So all of those things you look at in your preparation. The cruise line can advise you, your travel consultant can advise you, the internet can advise you, and you sort of take all of that into consideration and look at it. If you're going in a group, usually there's some seminar sessions run by the person who put the group together to advise you about each port and each thing that you could expect
Like an
to
orientation.
do. Absolutely.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and there are theme cruises. If you're really into culture, there are themes that are specifically geared towards looking at culture.
You were mentioning once that there was a client of yours who wanted to do the 7 wonders of the world and planned it accordingly
He
to
sort of had
Asia.
it in his bucket list, and so China obviously has the Great Wall.
Wall of China.
I
yes,
mean,
yeah.
so everybody travels for different reasons, and the secret is to match specifically what that person's looking for. And I like, when I travel, I am obviously a planner. And I like to know, if my wife is the type, we'll be at breakfast in the morning and she'll say, where are we today? And I'll say, we're such, what are we doing? I said, she'll say, why?
Or she has a big, good planner.
Yeah, she doesn't want to
next
know
her.
everything about, I like to know all about stuff,
Nice.
but I still like some surprises. I still like to discover something on my own that I wasn't expecting. And usually that often is the highlight of the trip for you. Is that you come across something that's fantastic that you didn't know you were going to come up with. And that's kind of the fun of travel to me.
With traveling by land and, of course, cruising, they have different experiences for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can combine the two.
You can, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
You can do a cruise that starts, say, in Shanghai and ends in another spot. And you can either do a land portion before you get on the ship, or you can do a land portion after, and that's becoming very common too.
Is that right?
Yeah. So if you're doing that, you'd want to pick a cruise that either starts or ends in an area that you're interested in exploring in more depth. Obviously, the ship's not going to get inland.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you wanted to see something like the Terracotta Warriors, you're going to have to fly
you
to
have
it.
to fly to it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's difficult to do if you're only in Shanghai for one day. It's difficult to fly to Jianan. see the terracotta warriors, fly back and get back on the ship.
So a little bit of planning is required even from the passenger's side point of view as well. Yeah. Okay.
So.
And I also wanted to talk to you about the cost factor. I mean, passage to Asia itself.
Yeah, I made this reference before. It's like buying a car. You can buy the small little economy car right up to a Rolls Royce, and the same is true with cruising. If you do a 7-day cruise in Asia, and you take an interior stateroom on one of the lower price, you could probably get away somewhere in the range of $1,000 to $1,200 a person.
That is without the.
That doesn't include flights.
Yeah, okay.
That's just the cruise, but the cruise includes everything while you're on board.
And this is, we're talking about an average.
That's average. You can find the odd one cheaper if you want. And there's basically 4 levels of cruising, and that would be the introductory level. The most popular is the level above that, where you pay a bit more, and for that type of cruise, again, length of time. If you go 2 weeks, a lot of people will say, I'm not flying all the way over from here and spending 7 days on a cruise and flying home.
Oh, is that?
Yeah,
okay,
so a lot of the cruises over there tend to be more in the length of 14 days, which might increase your price to $2,500 to $3,000 a person. But of course, if you want to, you can spend $15,000 or $20,000 a person
and do a one-way
and go ultimate luxury. That sort of thing.
Yeah, and like you said, 14 days is a minimum time that you would like to spend going as far as that east.
Because the flight over is again going to be in the range of $1,200 to $1,300 a person, and that's a good price. If you wait close to sailing, it'll be a lot more. And if you're spending that much to fly over, and you're going to save yourself $400 by only doing a week, I'm thinking that's a waste of a lot of money, because the flight's going to cost the same whether you do a 1 week or a 2 week or a 3 week cruise.
Right.
So you're not adding any extra cost to your flight by going longer. And for a lot of people, including myself, a trip to Asia on a cruise is a trip of a lifetime.
Oh yes,
it's not something I'm going to go cheaply for myself. But I mean, there's a lid for every pot, so everybody has different things they want, and you got to try and match that to them.
Yeah, if it's just the wonders of the world, then one Great Wall of China, and then there's the Taj in India.
Yeah, that's a different trip to get to each one. They're all kind of spread out, unfortunately.
All right, interesting. So David, we'll again take a very short break, and dear viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we have a few more interesting topics to cover cruising to Asia.